Welcome to Breaking Through with me, Kristen Ralph Finkbeiner, powered by Moms Rising. On this show, we're talking about your power. We're talking about voting rights. We're talking about the power of moms to push forward some big New York wins on childcare. We're talking about the power of your voice in shaping our immigration policy and how your voice is really needed there. And we're talking about the power of you running for office and indeed winning. We're going to jump right in with our first guest. We are joined by one of my very favorite leaders on the actual planet Earth, Barbara Arnwine. She's president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, it's good to be here.
So excited that you're here. One of the things we were talking about just before we got on is how important it is to give a giant, enormous thank you, hug, everything to the people of Minnesota. Do you want to share about that? I fully agree.
Everyone, we know that the people of Minnesota have been terrorized for almost 2 months. It's been horrific. During that time, 2 lives have been lost. There have been 3 shootings and numerous abductions, disruptions to the community. But the one thing that we should never forget is that the people of Minnesota stood up and said no. They took to the streets, and thousands upon thousands, scores of just refusing to give in to this tyranny. They refused to be frightened so that they could not move. They stood up for their neighbors. If their neighbors couldn't come out the house, they went to the neighbors' homes with food and groceries. They picked up each other's children. They did everything. They became videographers, taking pictures so that the story would be told to all of us throughout the nation. They stood up not only for themselves, not only for their city, they stood up for the nation. We are grateful to them forever. And yes, Mr. Holman, it's time to end the surge. We're glad you're taking them down, but the damage is there. As some people have said, it's intergenerational trauma has happened in this city. And wherever you're taking them down, don't send them anywhere else. I'm so glad DHS funding right now failed in the Senate today. They don't deserve more money. And they definitely don't deserve more money without restrictions. And I'm so glad that the Democratic senators, because that's who did it, stood firm and said, no way, not now. Don't even think about it. We're not giving you any money without some firm conditions. And one of those is that it has to be, I hope everybody's paying attention, no ICE at the polls.
Yes, and that is so important. One of the things that we're seeing, everybody's seeing on their cell phones, just on their social media channels, is that we have ICE actually doing chaos, not following the law, violating the Constitution, and that we do need to have those safeguards, and that we don't yet have those safeguards. And so making sure that there isn't chaos when people are voting is absolutely critical, as Barbara just said. We also saw that what happened in the big, bad, horrible, awful, terrible bill of yuck, that there was money pulled out of healthcare in order to fund ICE. $170 billion was pulled out of healthcare in order to fund human rights abuses, chaos, breaking of our U.S. Constitution, terrifying hardworking families and children, really causing deep pain in the United States of America and deep pain to our democracy. And yet we know that we need a safe, secure, balanced immigration process. We also know that we do not need what's happening now, and that is cuts to healthcare and a lot of cruelty. So one of the things a lot of people are talking about is not only not adding additional money to DHS, but also clawing back some of that money into our healthcare where it belongs and where the voters want that money to go. You know, we're going to see healthcare costs go up tremendously in the next years because of that big, terrible, awful, bad bill. And a lot of people don't realize it yet because it's a stepped-in approach of healthcare cuts. It doesn't happen like all on one day. It hasn't all happened yet. So for those of you who are seeing your healthcare costs going up, those healthcare costs are going to go up more if we don't try to pull some of that money back out and back into healthcare. So I just wanted to say that. And then I want to say a little bit more. And that is, I cannot believe that on the heels of all of this attack on our democracy, on our Constitution, that Republicans in Congress have proposed and passed in the House, as of the time of this recording, something called the SAVE Act, which does not save anybody. It's actually awful. And Barbara, you have done such a good job with voter rights, with explaining the history, the current context, and what will happen in the future, that I'm wondering if you could bring in our listeners to this terrible, awful, very bad situation related to the, quote, SAVE Act, which saves no one.
Well, first of all, everyone, think about this. Your mothers voted. Your dads voted. They didn't have a SAVE Act, but their votes counted, didn't they? So what's the SAVE Act about? Why all of a sudden it's so imperative, so, quote, needed? Because it's not. And look at what it would do. It would require that anyone who wanted to vote would have to produce firm evidence of their citizenship by your passport or your birth certificate. Now, in the past, what have we done? We've taken our driver's license, we've taken bills, we've taken our mortgages, we've taken, rental agreements, we've done all kinds of things to prove it's me, it's nobody else but me. And that's been accepted. But now they're saying you can't even register to vote if you don't bring them your passport. How many people have passports in the United States? Why don't you try? About 50% of us don't. What about 70% of Blacks not having passports? 70%. We got to think about what they're trying to do, but worse than that, women, all the married women in the world, all the married women in the United States. This bill would make you have to produce your birth certificate, and if it doesn't match your married name, you're not legitimate. You go into some kind of provisional status. You're not considered a legitimate voter. You can't register. You can't vote because you're considered illegitimate. How does this happen? How in the world does being married do this? Now, let me be very clear. We have been talking with this Congress for more than 3 years, telling them about these problems with this bill, telling them about what it would do to married women. But they haven't changed it, Kristen. And you know why they haven't changed it? Because they want this result. They're mad at women. They think women have been voting, for reproductive rights. They think women have been voting, quote, too liberally. They are mad at women. And if you think I'm wrong, look at all of these MAGA preachers who are running around talking about how women shouldn't have the right to vote. Come on, period. They don't think we should have the right to vote. This is part of that mentality. And I know people are saying, she can't be right, Kristen. She can't be right. She's got to be, this has to be hyperbole. She has to be making this up. But the truth is, folks, this is real. This is what's happening right now. That bill passed the House yesterday, despite all of these flaws. And we are hoping it goes to the graveyard in the Senate. So we need every single person right now to call your senators and say, vote no on the SAVE Act. That is vote no. And how do you call? 202-224-3121. You call 202-224-3121, or you can call 225-3121. But don't worry about, I don't remember my senator's name. I'm not sure who that is. You can just call. They're going to put you straight to that office and say, vote no. That's something you can do right now, so that when you think back about all the women who have sacrificed all these years for a women's right to vote, you can stand with them firmly by saying, I did my part in my time.
I agree with Barbara 150,000%. We cannot have this SAVE Act pass. Please call your senators and tell them vote no on the SAVE Act. It saves no one. It is a voter disenfranchising act. It is not at all about allowing people to vote. And something Barbara and I have talked about for a long time is there is no history, there is no proof of people overvoting. There are organizations and people like us on the Zoom who spend a lot of time trying to remind people to vote, because in the United States of America, we have actually very low voter participation rates.
Exactly.
So this is solving a false problem. What it's really trying to do is exactly what Barbara said: rig the elections by disenfranchising certain groups of voters. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to uplift what you said again, Barbara, because I think it's really important. Passports are not held by everyone. 50% of people in America at least don't have passports, and in communities of color, that number is even lower. It costs an average of $165 to get a passport, plus a whole lot of time, and you have to spend a whole lot of time, I'm not even saying anything about this myself, but on making sure your picture's cute. So not only do you have to spend money, you have to spend so much time. And so that's not happening for a lot of people, right? No. So that's problem one with the SAVE Act, right? Problem two is, what about your last name? Look, I am Kristen Rao Finkbeiner. My birth certificate most certainly does not match my driver's license or my passport. And what the heck, you know? You can't just say people who change their name when they got married cannot vote and you put us in provisional ballot status. No, no. So this is why everybody should take a moment. It is still active. Believe it or not, this law is still possible to pass. I can't even believe it. It's what it is cheating. It's Republican leaders and Donald Trump trying to cheat because they know they cannot win the election based on the policies that they're putting forward right now. They know without cheating, they cannot win. You don't try to cheat this much if you don't think that what you're doing isn't respected by the majority of America. So this is cheating. You need to tell your senators, vote no on the SAVE Act, no cheating, nothing. I'm so mad about this, Barbara. I'm so mad.
You have to be, because it's just wrong. It's un-American. It's not to the benefit of any of us. I mean, I'm just so disgusted with these policies that they try to make sound good, but they're just designed to destroy human lives. It is a tragedy that only 64% of Americans vote. Don't be falling for this, lie that somehow you got millions and millions and millions of ineligible people voting. The problem is that we have millions and millions and millions of eligible people who don't vote because they see laws like this and they get scared. They said, I don't want to be caught up in that trap. I don't want to waste my time and stand in line to find out all of a sudden I can't vote. Voter suppression is wicked, it's evil, it should never exist. And this is nothing but a massive voter suppression bill. Women, stand up. There's millions of us who would be affected by this. So I want everyone to just know, stand up right now.
Barbara, we only have about a minute left. You and I are both irate about what's happening right now in our nation's capital with Republican leadership. But what's giving you hope?
What's giving me hope is people. The people of Minnesota have shown us the way. The people of Chicago showed us the way. People who will join in Selma in a couple of months, and a couple of weeks, and we'll be in Selma from March 5th to the 9th to walk in John Lewis's and Amelia Boynton's and others' footsteps. I mean, all of them, they're there for us, and we want to, always be there for them. I'm also happy that on March 28th, people will be going out in droves to be part of No Kings 3. I'll be part of it. And I hope that everybody listening will say that we want the world to know that we're not down with this dictator. We don't believe in this. We are sad that our world image has been impaired by this evilness, but that we, the people, are ready to vote. If we could vote right now for the 2026 midterms, we would, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara Arnwine, for your national leadership, for being on with us, for all you do. Everybody join support Transformative Justice Coalition. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. Take care.
We'll be right back with our next guest, who's going to talk about how moms help propel some very big wins in New York and in New York City around childcare. We have an amazing guest for you right now. We have Diana Limongi, who is Senior Campaign Director of Early Learning and More at Moms Rising. She is here with some breaking news of awesome. Hello, the headlines are just horrible. What's happening at the federal level right now is nothing short of bleak, but there is important movement and momentum in places like New York City, where you are coming to us from. And I am so excited about it. Can you share a little bit about what's happening in New York and New York City?
Yes, New York City and New York State. It's actually really exciting. Thanks for having me, Kristen. So, when our current mayor, Mayor Mamdani, was running for office, he really made childcare one of his three, issues that he was going to focus on. And that really kind of catapulted childcare to, the center of attention. And that really caught the attention of Governor Hochul, who, at Moms Rising, I do childcare work. And we've been going to Albany for years. We've been meeting with childcare champions, our legislators in Albany. And I think that when Mayor Mamdani put childcare front and center, it really kind of inspired Governor Hochul to really kind of put the dollars and also make it front and center. So we're super excited. She has announced, historic investments. She has committed to ensure that universal pre-K for 4-year-olds is expanded by 2028, which is super exciting. She has increased the funding for the child care assistance programs, which helps so many families around the state and in New York City. She has also committed to helping fund additional seating for 3K in New York City, which is also super exciting, and money for pilot programs in New York City for the 2Care program, which would help, a certain number of children in high need places to start out with this 2Care, child care support. So it's all very, very excited. We're all very excited for all of this.
I'm so excited. And one of the things I'm excited about is how this happened, which is not in a vacuum. It is the voices of parents consistently raising that, hello, we need childcare in order to go to work, in order to raise thriving children, in order for businesses to thrive so they don't have supply chain problems because nobody's able to go to work, in order for childcare workers to stay in the profession and earn living wages, that childcare is just as important to our infrastructure as building bridges and roads to get to work. We need childcare to get to work. And again, for our kids to succeed in school now and later and in the future. And so we know that. We hear parents say that every day. But when Mamdani, by his own sharing of the story, was doorbelling, which means going to different people's doors around New York City saying, hey, here's who I am. I would love you to vote for me. What do you care about? What he heard over and over again at the doors was, hello, we have a childcare emergency. We know this. Me and everybody at Moms Rising knows this, but he heard it at the doors. And then moms, dads, parents, people also have been raising it time and time again, as you just shared, to the governor and more. And so it was in response to this that childcare became one of the three issues in that race. He doesn't even have children, you all. He heard it so much from parents. And I just feel so excited about this moment because it's proof positive that the voices and priorities of parents can make a difference. And what do you think about that, Diana?
So absolutely. He heard it. And actually, fun fact, Kristen, I don't even think you know this, but Assembly Member Mamdani, he was my assembly member. He represented me. So I actually reached out to him about childcare. And, he went to my children's school and he spoke to parents. So I can tell you that, he definitely was listening to parents and what we were saying. But yeah, it's a lot. It has been a lot of, making sure that lawmakers are aware of the issues, talking about the issues, humanizing the issues. And like you said, making sure that our stories and making those connections, right, between like oh, people going to work, and a lot of times we don't think about it. And I think we don't think about childcare. And I think that COVID really put a spotlight on it. You know, my childcare center closed when COVID hit, and I was devastated, and it was really, really hard. And you know, we had in New York City, we developed these like special childcare centers for emergency essential workers during COVID, right? So from there, we've just been building and really sharing these stories about the real need for childcare. So yeah, we've been going to Albany, we've been meeting with parents on the ground, we've been signing petitions, we've been meeting with lawmakers. It's really been a lot of work over these years, and we're so excited that, you know, the momentum is here, and that I think the dollars are behind it, which is also equally important.
Yeah, I mean, it's so incredible. We've got them walking the talk, right? On childcare, the dollars are there, like you just said. We didn't dive into the importance of moms' voices in an organized way over time. And that is what's happened in New York and across the country. And so, Diana, you do such a powerful job opening avenues for the voices of moms to be heard, helping people learn power moves to get their voices in the right rooms at the right time. Yeah, I did a power move wiggle. I did it. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about mom organizing and why it's so important for everybody to hear mom voices.
So, well, number one, it's important because as moms, we are powerful, right? And I think that the first thing that we need, and I want everyone to kind of hear, is that our experiences are powerful. They are important. They deserve to be shared. And the lawmakers who are shaping policies that are affecting our everyday lives need to hear from us, right? I always say, you know, it is their job to hear from you, right? There is a constituent line, like, don't be afraid to call them. But really, it's really about listening to moms and bringing those stories and really helping moms kind of own their power in sharing those stories and holding lawmakers accountable. I think they go together.
100% they go together. And I love the way you frame it. It is their job to hear our stories, to hear our priorities, to hear our contributions and our needs. And I like to bring up the contributions too, because 3/4 of families rely on the wages of moms to put food on the table, to put a roof over the heads of kids, to buy the sneakers of the shoes that kids keep outgrowing. I don't know how they outgrow their shoes so quickly, but they do, right? And so in that, moms are making 3/4 of consumer purchasing decisions in an economy that is based on our consumer purchasing decisions. We are holding up the economy with our work, with our wages, with our purchasing. And that's a big contribution. And as we're contributing to holding up the economy in our families, we have some needs, people. And the needs are things like we need childcare so we can go to work and our kids can thrive. And so when moms are in the room, we can talk about both. Here's our contributions. Hello, we're, you know, holding up the planet here. And here are our needs. If you'd like us to continue helping to hold up the planet, we have some needs. And what you just said is also really important, is that members of Congress, state legislators, governors, all the elected leaders benefit from hearing from us. You are doing them a favor, because guess what? We still don't have political parity. We still don't have elected bodies that reflect who we are. And many of them have never struggled with having access to childcare. That's just who's running for office, right? And so us telling them stories about areas that they have no experience with is really, I would say it's a gift. It's like a little present. Like, here, tell your story, tell your needs. It's a present, because there's a lot of blinders on out there. I think of it as a giant give a clue project. Hi, we have a clue. We'd like to share the clue with you. It's a special present. What do you think about that?
Yes. And also I think that when a mom goes into an office or meets a legislator, and I always say, you know, at the local level, go to, like, if you know they're going to be at a park, if you know they're going to be at your school, go and like talk to them and tell them what you need. Because a lot of times as moms, first of all, we're shy and we think that it's not important, which is absolutely false. It's absolutely important, and you should absolutely share. And I guarantee you that for every mom that has shared her story, there are like 2,500 other moms who have the exact issue that they're struggling with, right? And a lot of times as moms, we think, oh, you know, I'm the only person that's going through this. No, no, no. We already know that the system is broken. It's not my fault that I can't afford XYZ. It is the system that is broken and designed to make us kind of be failing at all these things, right? So yes, I encourage you to share this story. It's powerful. It's information. It's information that can help them create better bills and create better laws that will help their constituents. And
150%. Do you have, and really quick, so we can talk about Bad Bunny, because I want to talk about Bad Bunny. Do you have really quick how people could share their story with Moms Rising?
Yes. So I invite you to check out our website. It's momsrising.org. And there's a link there where you can share your story. And yes, and if it's a childcare story, I will tell you, I am like the childcare story collector. So I guarantee you that I read your story and I will probably get in touch with you. And I love connecting with other moms and listening to their stories and like helping them kind of hone into that power and, you know, make those connections so they can connect with lawmakers and, you know, fight for change that will help our families and all families.
That is the best answer. And I only have 2.5 minutes left with you. But Bad Bunny was a moment of hope. It was a moment of change. It was a narrative shift of joy in America. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on Bad Bunny in about 2 minutes, maybe 2 minutes.
Sure, I will try. Wow, Bad Bunny's performance was, yes, it was a moment of hope. I am still writing the hope. I have listened to the songs every single, you know. What was really powerful is that you didn't need to be necessarily Puerto Rican, right? I'm Latina, right? My parents immigrated from a Latin American country to this country. So when I saw that performance, it was like my life. It was like I was watching my childhood. I was listening to, you know, some of the intros and some of the little things like the cart and the, you know, the barber, like and I grew up in New York City, so it was even more powerful. But really what was most powerful to me was that I got to see that with my kids. And my kids, it was really important for me to raise them to speak Spanish. So my kids speak Spanish and my kids understand the lyrics. And I think they were a little bit confused as to the emotion that was coming out of me because I cried and I was jumping up and down and I was dancing. But it was, for me, it was kind of like a full circle moment that I was able to, I think, give that gift to my kids of seeing them understand what he was singing and what it was about and having conversations, because then it opens up other conversations, right? If you are a person that doesn't understand Spanish but is watching this show and you are watching that he's on these electrical wire things, you're like, well, why? Why is he, you know, why are there electrical things there? What does that mean? Why did it open up with, what is it, sugarcane fields, right? What does that mean? You know, why is there a little kid, this is more cultural, but why is there a little kid sleeping on 2 chairs? And I can tell you, as a person who went to every single family party, that is real, right? We fell asleep while our parents danced. And what was beautiful is that it was such a moment of joy. Everybody was so happy. Lady Gaga was there and she was singing English in salsa. And it was just so beautiful. It was like everything that we want and we know that we can be. Yeah, and you know, the moment of like there's an older, like a grandpa dancing with a little girl, like that. My kids have done that with my parents, right? So, you know, as a Latina, as a New Yorker, there was just so much joy that is fueling me and fueling me.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm still celebrating with Bad Bunny on 25 hours a day in my house too. It was so good. Thank you so much for being on. Thanks for all you do, Diana Lamoji of Moms Rising. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Kristen.
Thank you. Stick around because we have an important conversation on what's happening with immigration policy in America and how your voice is needed. We have the one, the only, the super, the fantastic, the spectacular Donna Norton of Moms Rising on. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm even more happy that you're here because you are doing so much to protect our democracy, to make America a place where everyone, and I mean everyone, can thrive. A lot of people have been reading the very confusing and chaotic headlines about immigration. What is happening?
Well, there is some good news today, which is very exciting because people have been raising their voices all over the country, but especially in Minneapolis. Today, the Democrats blocked funding to DHS, which funds ICE, and are demanding that there be measures put in place to rein in ICE. And that's super good news that the Republicans weren't able to just give ICE more money without any accountability measures in there. So that's exciting. And then the second exciting thing that we're all crossing our fingers is actually true is that Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, announced today that they are taking the rest of the 3,000 ICE agents they sent to Minneapolis out because of the huge amount of public pressure that's been put on them. So that's also a huge victory for the voices of the people to have safe communities, to protect their neighbors, and to, be supportive of each other.
150%. Some of the guardrails that are being asked for by the Senate Democrats are so important because we've seen instance after instance of ICE and Border Patrol actually taking lives, actually violating the U.S. Constitution, breaking rules. I mean, just really, really, really beyond outrageous behavior. What are some of those guardrails that the Senate Democrats are asking for?
Well, one that is particularly near and dear to the hearts of moms is to reinstate a policy that has been in place for decades before Trump came into office that protected sensitive locations from ICE enforcement activities. So for decades, schools have been protected, childcare centers have been protected, faith spaces have been protected, hospitals, healthcare organizations have all been protected from ICE, which is a huge thing. And what we're seeing, because Donald Trump took away that protection, is that children around the country are completely terrified. They're seeing ICE agents come into their schools. We had one teacher who told us that an ICE agent brought a father of a kindergartner into the kindergarten class in handcuffs and to pick up his daughter. And the daughter was crying and pleading with the teacher to protect her. And of course, that was incredibly traumatic for that child, but for every other child in that class and the whole school. And we're seeing scenes like that roll off across the country. Even in Seattle, we've had lockdowns when ICE is near schools. We have seen, like a member of ours from Minneapolis told us that at her child care center, it's a bilingual child care center, and one, because of like the threats of ICE around the center, and two, because they've had these right-wing influencers going around to Minneapolis child care centers demanding to see the child care center and getting entry into these child care center to try to expose some sort of alleged fraud they're saying is going on, that they were getting so many threatening messages from the public that all the parents had to set up a patrol around their childcare center. It's like, how are you supposed to work if you have to set up a patrol to protect the place that's trying to keep your children safe and learning while you're at work? I mean, the whole thing is such a menace, and every child, immigrant child who's going to school is worried about their parents. Are they going to be there at the pickup? Is ICE going to come to the pickup and pick up their parents, whether they're US citizens or not? So It's just been a huge disaster, and that's one of the protections that the Democrats are asking for, and also moms are asking for.
Yeah, and we need that protection, you all. Sensitive areas, and actually every area should be protected. We shouldn't have this happening with our kids, with our families, with our communities. We had one story that actually was shared in Minneapolis where there was a young person. They went to like a little kind of grocery store. They got a snack. They were walking home. This is a teenager, not an adult. They were walking home with their snack, and ICE stopped them, demanded their quote papers. Of course, they didn't have papers. What child walks around with papers? No kids walk around with papers. Plus, what mom trusts their teenager with their birth certificate, right? Like, they're going to lose it. I'm just saying it. I said what I said. So ICE asked this young person, young teenager, for their papers, which they did not have. And then the young teenager said, "Can I go home?" And ICE then said no. And disaster actually happened from there. So we can't have this kind of harassment, abuse of our young people that is really going to be generational trauma already. What are your thoughts on that, on the impact on kids over time, on what they've had to go through?
I mean, it's devastating, the kind of stress that children are having to live with across our nation. And, we know that stress has terrible impacts on children's development, on their emotional development, on their learning. There are lots of children who are not going to school right now because they're afraid of ICE, or walking back in school from home because of ICE. And so kids that are missing out on education, there are 3,800 children who've been put in detention, immigrant children, since the beginning of the Trump administration, in detention centers that are well documented for terrible conditions. And the impact of detention on children is devastating. So this is, devastating for children across the country.
It is. What can people do right now who are listening and are really devastated hearing about that and this and all of it? It's awful. What can people do?
Well, one thing we can do right now, I mentioned that the Senate refused to give more money to ICE, and that's one of the things the we have right now is on the money that's going to ICE, but also to make sure that in the legislation we have strong accountability measures. And so we're now in the process where the Senate is going to be negotiating on what kind of protections can be had, and how much money should be given. And our position is, like, they had a massive increase in funding in Trump's big ugly bill that was passed last year, and they don't need more money. And in fact, what we want is for the $75 billion that was taken from healthcare to fund ICE to be put back into Medicaid. We're very excited that all the Democrats and 2 Republicans voted for that. And so we really want to push on that. We're seeing, massive cuts to our healthcare. At the same time, there has been this massive increase in funds to ICE. And so we need to make sure that Congress knows that's not our priority. We want healthcare for our families. We don't want to see our neighbors, our healthcare providers, our child care providers who are 20% immigrants, like home care providers who are 40% immigrants in a lot of places, targeted. This is bad for all families, whether you're immigrant or not, and needs to stop. So that's a big message we need to keep getting into the Senate. And also, the Republicans are going to say, oh, this is terrible, DHS was shut down. What's going to happen to TSA? What's going to happen to FEMA, the other parts of DHS? But the fact is they have a $191 billion slush fund So they have enough money to fund DHS until the fourth quarter of 2027. So that's not a real issue. The issue is our communities are in danger, immigrants are being targeted, US citizens that they think possibly could be immigrants are being targeted, people that are just looking out for their communities are being targeted and killed. And so this is not acceptable, and we really need our government and our representatives to rein in ICE, and this is the time to do it.
How should people make that call? Do you have tips on how to make your voice heard with your U.S. Senator?
Just call your U.S. Senator. If you go to momsrising.org, you'll see how to do that, and you don't have to be an expert in the topic. You get to their switchboard and they'll direct you to your U.S. Senator, whether you know their name or not, and you just tell them, I'm a constituent. I'm very concerned about what's going on, and I don't want more funding of ICE.
Pretty simple. No more funding for ICE, please. Also, please put in some constraints around what they're doing. So some accountability measures.
Absolutely.
Donna, we only have about 2.5 minutes left. What you're working on is highly stressful, and I'm wondering what is keeping you going? What is bringing you hope? Do you have tips for how to endure through hard times? And I happen to know that you dance almost every day. So what are your tips?
I dance every day. I mean, look for the helpers. There's amazing things going on in our communities to look out for immigrant neighbors, the beautiful things that were being done in Minneapolis to try to support immigrants is very inspiring. There's a lot of really amazing people out there, and I think that's really important to keep focusing on the light. The fact that, by lifting our voices, you can tell we're already making a difference. There is, huge public disapproval of the president's immigration policies, which gives me much faith in America and who we are as Americans and our pride in our immigrant histories. So I think there's, it's a hard time. I'm not gonna lie. It's a hard time. But I think by focusing on the good things that are going around you and just being with the people you love, and trying to do the things you love, I think keeps me going. How about you?
From us. I have advice from us. Call your U.S. senators. Say no more funding for ICE and schedule some dancing time every single day. We need
dancing every day.
Dancing every day, possibly to Bad Bunny. I'm just saying that's been on 25 hours a day in my house. But also schedule that activism time. Thank you so much, Donna, for your national leadership, for your leadership at Moms Rising, for all that you do. And thank you for being on with us on this radio program.
Thank you.
Next up, we're talking about why women running for office and indeed winning is so important and how you can get involved. We are joined by a very, 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 very special guest, Ashanti Golar, who is president and CEO of Emerge, one of my favorite organizations. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, hello, my sister friend. I am so excited to be with you today.
I'm even more excited because we have had some recent electoral victories that show voter enthusiasm is absolutely on our side and, might I add, rising. Emerge has played such a big role in protecting democracy, lifting candidates, and so much more. I want to talk about recent victories, but first I want to talk about Emerge. Can you give context to our listeners and our audience about what's Emerge and why they're important? And let me just give a little hint. They're very important to you.
Oh, thank you. Emerge, we are the nation's largest network of women elected officials and candidates. We have been doing this nationally for 21 years, but we started in 2002 in the Bay Area. Our co-founders were really great friends with the woman people may know, Kamala Harris, and she was running her very first race for district attorney, and they were supporting her, and they realized that there wasn't an organization for women to go to get the tools, the resources, the skills, but most importantly, a network of support for when they run for office. Thus, Emerge California was created. Our national organization was created in 2005, and we have trained over 7,000 women to run through our signature programs, our boot camps, and our specialty programs. And we currently have over 1,200 serving in elected office at all levels of government across the country, from governors to members of Congress to sheriffs, school boards, city council. We have it all, and we are just so proud of the women who are in our training programs right now, stepping up to run. And I've had the opportunity to speak to so many of our cohorts. And honestly, Kristen, I just say to them, thank you not only for letting Emerge be a part of your journey, but thank you for your courage, for stepping up to run during this difficult time. It's never easy, but we know, especially right now, it's not easy, but these women are doing it because that is how much they care about our country, our communities, and creating a better future for the next generations.
It's so true. And I'm so thankful for you for helping candidates and to emerge as well, and also to all the candidates who are running. I want to talk a little bit about those recent victories that you love the most, that are showing voter enthusiasm is on our side. Because people, I want to make sure that none of us, me, you, anybody, gives up on democracy, right?
Yes.
We need to be making our plan to vote now for every election because our votes matter. And I think the recent victories really show how much our vote can matter. And you also recently did a 4 things we learned already in 2025. And that's number 1. I'll just give that to people so they have context. So let's talk it. Recent victories.
Oh my goodness. So I'm going to talk about this first one because it's deeply personal. I live in Virginia, and there was a special election for a state Senate seat, and our alum, Elizabeth Bennett Parker, won that election. So it's our first big win of the year. But for me, I get to now say that my governor, my mayor, and my state senator are Emerge alums. So when I talk about the work of Emerge, I get to see it directly where I live, the impact that these women are able to have. And we're seeing just powerful women all across the country winning these special elections, stepping up to run. When we look at the mayor in Florida, so many of us have written off Florida, but we had a great win there. You know, it wasn't a big win in Texas, you know, for a seat, but it was in Tarrant County. And to put that in context, that is the reddest part of Texas, and they elected a Democrat. And I like to talk about that because it shows that at the end of the day, there's so many states that we write off just saying, oh, it's hopeless. We can't make change. We can't do it. Those states, they're really just low voting states. But these people, they came out because they were excited about the candidates, in addition to wanting to make change for the country. So that's what we say at Emerge. It's the right candidate in the right district at the right time, and then you get your victories. And I'm just super pumped for the midterms. I think it's going to be great. Of course, it's going to be a fight, but I think we are all up for it. And you know, something that is really giving me hope for the midterms and these elections is the young people who are turning out to put their name on the ballot, who are turning out to vote. But I also love seeing the kids who are out protesting right now to talk about what is happening in the country and make sure that they have a great future. Like when I see all these kids marching in the interviews with the young women, I'm just like, future elected officials. Like that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing all these future elected officials, and it makes me so happy.
I love that so much. I want to go to number 2 on the 4 things we learned in 2025 because I love your 4 things.
Thank you.
Number 2 is voters choose women to lead at the top. And so there are a lot of myths out there like, voters don't like women running for office. Not true. Give us the scoop.
So it's really simple. If women weren't electable, we wouldn't have any women in elected office, period. That's it. And I do think, unfortunately, after 2024, when we did not get that big win, it was really easy for people to write off the electability of women. But in 2024, we saw over 400 Emerge alums elected to office. Last year in 2025, we still had hundreds of Emerge alums elected to office because people are looking to women to lead. So many people feel that their elected officials have failed them, regardless of whatever party they are in. And they want people who understand them. And for them, they're seeing women because of their lived experiences, their backgrounds, but they're living these everyday lives. And when you're voting for people who are your neighbors, who share the same values, but most importantly, want to get elected to get the work done, people are going to show up and vote for them. And that is what fueled the victories of Governor Spanberger, Governor Sherrill, and just other elections. It was great for me. And it's something that makes me so happy to just see the energy and how excited people get about women candidates because they get to experience what I get to experience every day working at Emerge, just how exciting it is to support women and then to see how effective they are the minute they get in there. Like we know Governor Sherrill, Governor Spanberger, just like day one, like those executive orders were coming and they were getting things done.
I love it. Actually, there's additional studies that I know you know about, but just sharing with our listeners that women leaders literally do get more things done when you do an analysis of positive policies that lift our families and our businesses and our economy by measures looking at actual legislation passed and implemented. Women leaders get more things done. So women leaders are better for our country. And one of the things is we still don't have political parity, people. That's why we're talking about the importance of more women leaders. I mean, that and many other reasons, but the United States of America ranks 91st. So 91 other nations do better than us at political parity, which means making sure there are level numbers of gender in office. And we are behind. We are so far behind. So we know that when women win, America wins, our communities win. And that actually goes to number 3 that we were going to talk about, which is your number 3, 4 things we learned in 2025 as a refresher for our listeners. Women voters are powerful too. So we talked about women candidates being powerful. Yes, indeed. Now women voters are powerful. They propel wins. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. If we want to just stick with talking about data, when we look at voter turnout in 2025, women were at the top. So these victories that we are able to celebrate, it was driven by women, but we also have to point out by a diverse coalition of women. These were Black and brown women, white women, young women, unmarried women, LGBTQ women, all of us coming together to say, okay, this is who we need in elected office. And that is just extremely important. When we think about all the voter suppression that they do, we know it really disproportionately impacts women. Just right now, the SAVE Act that just got passed in Congress. Y'all, this will be devastating. If you are a woman who is married and you changed your name, it will impact your ability to vote. If you don't have access to a passport, if you don't have access to a birth certificate. I love the fact that women last year, and we're going to continue to see it going forward, they are the ones who are really leading the charge in so many ways. And part of that charge is at the ballot box.
Absolutely. The last thing on the list of 4 spectacular items is Emerge led Prop 50 to victory. And this is important because this is dealing also with elections and stopping cheating by Republican leaders and MAGA leaders and Donald Trump. Can you talk about Prop 50 and why it's important for election protection?
Yes, absolutely. And we know we are experiencing mid-decade redistricting. You know, I say that loosely because when we look at what happened in Texas, that was really voter suppression. And that's where it really started. And I do have to shout out our alum, Representative Retta Bowers in Texas. She was the one who led the effort to fight back against it. And I'm just so proud of everything that she did. Obviously, they didn't win the fight, but she put up a fight. And that is extremely important. And in California, we got to see Emerge alums leading the way from Congresswoman Latifah Simon to State Senator Sasha Renee Perez, and even one of our former colleagues, but a forever colleague, Melanie Ramil, who was the executive director of Emerge California. She works for the California Democratic Party right now, and she was the one who ran that campaign. So she was pretty much the campaign manager for Prop 50, and it allowed for them to just do their own redistricting to help fight back against what happened in Texas. And we're talking about Prop 50, but I think it's an important way to show how who is elected in other states will absolutely impact you. You have to have that defense going on that if something goes wrong in Texas, we have the leadership, particularly the leadership of women in another state like California, who can help offset the negative impact. And it just goes to show the work that we do at Emerge. Yes, it is about getting women into office, but it's what they do when they're in office. And to be able to step up and lead during such a historic moment, I continue to be so proud of our alums and everything that they do.
We only have a minute and a half left, and I, of course, have 5 hours and 23 seconds of questions for you. But I know that our members, our listeners, our audience is wondering, how can I get involved in Emerge?
Yes, you can visit us at emergeamerica.org 365 days a year. You can find out information about our training programs, our alums that are in office. If you're not interested in running for office, you can even nominate that great woman in your life to run for office. And you can find us on all the social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We are also on Snapchat. You can find us there at Emerge America.
I love it. So everybody, please get involved with Emerge, support Emerge. If you don't want to run for office yourself, please nominate somebody who you think would be good. And then, this is important, ask your friends to nominate that person too. Studies show that women need to be nominated 7 more times or push 7 more times to run for office than men do, who often step forward on their own. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just, saying. So if you find somebody in your community who you want to run for office, don't only remind them to run for office, but get your friends to remind them too. And please go to Emerge and support Emerge. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your national leadership. Thank you for saving our democracy. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you, my friend, for having me. And thank you for everything that you do. I love that I get to be in this fight with you.
Same, love it more. Thank you. Well, that's it for our show today. Thanks so much for tuning in to the top topics facing our nation in a way that requires this most boring disclaimer in the history of the planet Earth. Here goes. Views expressed on this show are those of the individual speakers and should not be attributed to Moms Rising, to this station, or to any news or social media service that may disseminate a recording of this show to the public or to any segment of the public. Boom! We'll catch you next week.